seems to have worked that time. We'll see if we get anywhere. There. Trying to go to YouTube here. And go to my channel. And yes, although it says Movie Night with Matthew on the thumbnail, but hey, that's all good. So hopefully somebody will show up soon. Otherwise, it's going to be a very boring stream as I sit here and attempt to ramble on. I will tell you guys, I got absolutely no sleep last night. As in like zero, none, nada. And Potato Revan is first. It says, how are you feeling? Well, I got zero sleep last night. Zero, nada, none. Not one single wink. I did manage to get a video recorded for the Templar channel that I'll post hopefully the next couple of days once Mrs. Anti-Checker gets some information to me that I need for that. And so, but yeah, man, I feel like crap. I absolutely feel like crap, Potato Revan. It's just, the pain is, I mean, I can deal with it. I've been dealing with pain for a long time. But yeah, just not being able to get comfortable enough to rest, to relax, that's been very difficult. And so I can't lie down. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that by the time tonight rolls around, that the incisions in my abdomen will have healed enough to where I can lie down in the bed and be able to not wince in pain. If I can do that, then I'll probably be able to sleep. Because the problem is that up until now, I haven't been able to lie down in the bed at all. And so I've been confined basically to this chair. And it's been increasingly more difficult to try and sleep in this chair. So, because, besides the fact that I'm already hurting, I just got all, just the other stuff. So it's just been a freaking mess. But I'm not here to just whine. We'll see if Robert shows up. Part of me is hoping he doesn't. Because I don't know if I want to talk to him about that little, one of the people that he made me research this week. Man, I think it was Robert. Let me look up my little document file that I had on this guy. Because I think I wrote his name. That's not it. That's not it. Yeah, it's Robert Rose. We'll see if he shows up. So you guys remind me, if you see Robert Rose pop up in the chat, remind me to talk to him about the thing I don't want to talk to him about. Mike Richards is here from Columbus, Ohio. Good to see you. Trustin is here. Says, good morning. Sorry you had a rough night. I'm here with you. Been awake since 3 a.m. Yeah, I it's funny because the video that I recorded, I made the mistake. You should never do this, but I never listen to my own advice, because I tell people don't ever apologize for your own work. Instead, just do the best you can. But I did say in my video that it was like 4 a.m. because I happened to look at the time while I was recording it, and I couldn't believe it was 4 a.m. Because I tried to record this video over and over and over. Because honestly, and I'm going to try not to get into it too much unless Robert shows up, because Robert is the reason that I did this video. But I've been trying to do this video over and over and over, and I've been trying to not sound like a complete jerk. And when I say that, I'm not saying it to be silly or snarky. I mean, I was going off. I was angry. I mean, like, I was letting the emotions out, because there are some things that, and you know, think about, I mean, Jesus himself had his triggers, right? I mean, Jesus got a little pissed off over what happened with the money changers. So he made a makeshift whip, started beating the crap out of everybody, right? And so I don't think Jesus was none too happy that day. And so that's how I've been feeling trying to make this video. I've been and so it's been very difficult for me to make this video and to do it with a relatively calm tone of voice. And I think I managed to do it as well as it could be done. But it's just that it took me, gosh, at least 30 or 40 tries to get it as calm as I did. And even then, I think there's a couple of spots where a little bit of snarkiness came out. It wasn't too bad, but it was just, you could tell that I was not liking this guy, to say the least. But again, unless Robert joins us in the chat here, I don't want to get into it because it's Robert's fault. It's entirely Robert's fault. And I'm just going to blame Robert for the rest of my day. The reason I'm having a bad day today is because of Robert. Anyway, Treston says, hope your surgery went well. Well, the surgery, the gallbladder surgery went fairly well, I guess. I mean, as far as gallbladder surgeries go, there weren't any complications. You know, now it's just a matter, the recovery, it's similar to recovering from any abdominal surgery, which is, you know, hit and miss. So I'm hurting a lot. Walking around is difficult, stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm not happy about that came out of the blue with everything else that's going on. But hey, you know, as good a time as any. Gotta get it out. You gotta get it out. Mike Richards saying hi to Indy Tiger. Trustin giving a thumbs up to somebody. Indy Tiger saying good morning to Bradley and to CD. Did I say hi to CD? I don't think I said hi to CD. CD said hi. I hope you feel better soon. Thank you, CD. I do too. I am tired of feeling like this. And you know, it's funny. I was even saying this when I was recording the video that I was making mainly for Robert, who again, I am blaming Robert for me having a bad day. See, notice the one time Robert's always here for my live streams. The one time that I actually am prepared to talk to Robert about something specifically that he wanted to talk about, he doesn't show up. I'm going to never, ever, ever let Robert hear the end of this one. Because he's always like, hey, did you ever check out the... And I'm always like, no, I didn't. And it's like, man, I checked it out. I was researching the crap out of it because I was stuck in the hospital for days with nothing to do except watch, you know, basic cable TV or watch YouTube on my phone. And so I started doing stuff on my phone and researching this guy. And wow, So, I mean, I could talk to you guys about it. I just hate to start all over if Robert shows up. We'll give him a few more minutes. Anyway, but in the video that I recorded, I even said, you know, I hope I feel better soon. It sucks that, you know, look, and my prayer life has been focused a lot lately about, look, God, your will be done, but does your will have to involve me hurting so much right now? I mean, seriously, does it really have to? Uh, and because we got to be careful about, on the one hand, it's okay to acknowledge that we don't like our current life circumstance. That is perfectly okay. That is perfectly acceptable. What's not okay is to shake our fist at and curse God for it. Because we have to be willing to accept that sometimes there may be a greater good, a larger reason that we are incapable of understanding, that there's a reason for it. Maybe there's a reason that I'm going through it. Maybe, it could be something as stupid as that gallbladder surgery was just, that surgeon that performed the gallbladder surgery, whose name I can't even remember, needed to perform that particular gallbladder surgery because if he hadn't, he would have done a heart transplant, which would have gone wrong, and he would have gotten depressed over that. And because of that, his whole career would have gone south and would have ruined his life. Right? So I get to have gallbladder surgery so that my surgeon doesn't get depressed because he would have had a really bad heart transplant surgery had I not needed that surgery. It could have been something like that. Or who knows? Could have something to do with something else 10 generations from now. And the problem is that the only way to really know is to be omniscient. And we can't be omniscient as much as we would like to. And sometimes we act like we are. That's one of the fundamental problems when atheists and try to use the problem of evil as a form of argumentation. It almost always fails because the problem of evil can only work if you are in fact omniscient, because you only know if something is ultimately and objectively good or evil if you are omniscient. And so, which is a problem. Oh, excuse me. Bradley says, I'm right there with you, Anti-Checker. I'm not having the best time lately, especially this morning. Seizures are kicking my butt. Oh, I'm sorry. Hate the way they make me feel. Hope you're feeling better soon. Yeah, man. I don't know how seizures feel, but I feel like crap right now. And I know that Mrs. Anti-Checker, when she has seizures, they knock her out. So I am truly sorry, my friend. Professor Brainy Specs, good to see you, is in the house, says good morning. Deej is in the house, says good morning. Where's my coffee? Right here, Deej. And I will tell you, it's a particularly good Colombian blend today. With some chocolate, by the way. Very good. Professor Manuspecs saying greetings to Deej. Indy say, oh man, I know how rough seizures are coming out after it feels the worst. Pardon me, because completely drained of energy. Yeah, that's kind of, it seems like, after a seizure, it's like, it sounds like you just feel like you've been completely drained of everything, and now your body has to kind of slowly recharge. As a heart transplant patient, I take offense at that theory. Well, I'm sorry, Mark. What, Mike? Well, no, the theory is still sound, but it could be that it wasn't your heart transplant. In fact, I'm fairly certain it wasn't yours. But we'll change it. Perhaps it wasn't a heart transplant. Perhaps had it not been for my gallbladder removal, he would have had to have removed a splinter. And that would have gone very poorly. It would have caused an infection. And that patient would have died from a splinter in their big toe. And he would have quit his medical practice. And because of that, a dozen people would have died because he's actually a really good surgeon, but he quit because he screwed up a splinter. There you go. Abraham says, so is it ever okay to be angry with God? Well, it's one of those things, never say never, and or that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm sure that if I said, no, it's never okay, you'll come up with some off-the-wall scenario that I wasn't thinking of. I can't think of a scenario where it's okay to be angry or wrathful, I should say, at God. Because, I would simply point at Job and say, yeah, where were you when God laid the foundations of the earth? You have no right to be angry with God ever. So that would be my general philosophical stance, but I'm sure you're probably holding some ace up your sleeve that I'm not thinking of, Aberjam, because you're clever like that. Professor Respect says it's good to see you. Thank you, Jeff. Strange to hear that from you, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And wants to know if Deej is believing the rumors. I'm wondering what rumors that is. Let's see. Deej says, not sure what rumors. I've been out of the loop 24 hours trying to recover. Yeah, I don't know what rumors he's talking about either. I'm very curious about the rumors. And then he puts a link to some article. All right, what's this? Probably something having nothing to do with theology, I'm sure. Ollie Alexander said to be the new Doctor Who. Oh. Yeah, really? Okay. That's going to be Doctor Who? Oh, well. Well, you heard who my choice was. That ain't it. Andre is here from Bosnia. Good to see you. Bradley says, if you never get angry at God, then it's probably not a healthy relationship. Well, here's the thing, Bradley, and this is why I said wrathful. And it's one of those funny things where you have to be careful about how you phrase things, because there are certain things, for example, when Christ says it's, you've heard that you should not commit adultery, but I say unto you that if you even look at a woman with lust, that you've committed adultery in your heart. That doesn't mean that if you see a hot chick and you're like, ha ha ha, that all of a sudden you've committed the sin. What that means is that you saw something and you had an emotional response. You can't necessarily control that. However, what comes next, you absolutely have a control over. So you can be angry because you're in a particular circumstance, right? Oh, man, I cannot believe, I'm going through all this stuff with the neurological stuff. I'm having to take all these medications. They're trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with me. I had the nasal surgery. I'm trying to figure all this mess out. And then, bam, let's send you to the ER and give you gallstones and more operations and just mess with you some more. And of course, you're going to say, come on. And you're going to have that instant anger reaction. That is not a sin. However, once you stop so the emotion settles down for a second, and now your intellect kicks in. Now the brain kicks in. What are you going to do with that? Are you going to then turn around and direct that anger at God? Are you going to now blame God for your circumstances? Are you going to say, God, why are you doing this to me? How dare you, the creator of the universe, allow me to be inconvenienced? Is that going to be your reaction to this circumstance? Or are you going to be humbled and say, as I've been, and then I'm not going to lie, it can be a struggle, but I've been trying to do this week, and say, God, your will be done. I hope that these circumstances that have come into my life help to further your plan. I hope that what I'm going through right now aids you in some way, or aids the doctors or aides, my family or my subscribers or whoever it needs to help. How are we approaching it? That's what matters. And that's where sin is committed or not committed. And I think that that's where I think that you can, if you are pointing the finger and shaking your fist at God, you're in a very, very bad place. And Andre asks, why are you religious? Well, that's a very, very deep question, but the short answer is because I believe that God exists. Dreamers out there says, hello, Anti-Checker. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Dreamer. I hope you're doing well as well. Professor Brainy Specs says something about the BBC. Did you finally buzz the mop? No. Mrs. Anti-Tracker actually braided my hair. It's just, dark chair. The lights are a little dim. And a dark shirt, which, by the way, I love this shirt. This shirt was a Father's Day gift from Mrs. Anti-Tracker for the Templar channel, the other channel that I do, since it's got a Templar cross on it. And I just haven't worn it because, hospital and crap. But yeah, the hair is still just as long as ever. And yeah. Gobblegook Movie Monster says, I'm the Alpha, the Omega, the mindless chimera, flashing lights and explosions will make this vegetable masses entertained. Well, that's different. And D says, okay, talking about the Doctor Who thing. Dreamers out there says, and Trigger, so here's a real question. Do you believe what you're going through right now is a part of God's plan? If so, things like kind of a dick mood, what do you do to him? Well, here's the thing about that. And honestly, I think that I get that. I mean, it's funny the way you phrase. And Random Menace, thank you so much, Joseph. Throws a couple of euros in the bucket for me. I do appreciate it. And actually, my doctors will appreciate it because that's $2 that'll go to them. And it says, greetings from the future. Did you keep the stones? I did not, because unlike Koroganite in Turkestan, we don't need to keep bodily generated chemicals as to try and pretend that that's how we get valuable items. But I do want to address what you're saying there, Dreamers out there, because despite the humorous way you put it, that's a serious question. Because it does feel like, wow, if this is part of your plan, it feels like kind of a dick move. Well, nowhere in the Bible does it say that if you're on God's team, so to speak, if you're a believer, nowhere does it say you get special treatment. It doesn't say that you get, your life's going to go any easier than anybody else's. And in fact, it does say that in this world there will be trouble, that you're going to have to deal with crap. And the Bible has sayings in it. Some are still quoted to this day, like it rains on the rich and the poor, that the sun shines on the righteous and the unrighteous alike, those kinds of things, because the world is basically the universe is not going to play favorites. All right. So bad things will happen to good people and bad people, and good things will happen to bad people and good people. However that goes. Anyway, all that being said, God does have some kind of ultimate purpose to the universe. And whatever that ultimate purpose is, it will happen. God can operate outside of what we call space-time. And most of us nerds should have a much easier time understanding these kinds of concepts than your average folk because we're nerds. And so if God can sit there outside of the time flow and just kind of see the beginning and end of time and see the end of time looks pretty good. All right, good. Well, I want it to go down that way a little bit. Let me tweak it here. There we go. That looks good. And so that's how we can have free will within the time flow, but God will tweak things here and there if he needs to. But sometimes that does mean that, well, maybe something bad does need to happen. Sometimes it does mean that somebody needs to die, or somebody needs to be hurt, or somebody needs to have, just bad things happen in their lives so that they can be strengthened through it, so that they can become be more learn perseverance and learn endurance and all that good stuff, because suffering builds character and it helps us grow stronger over time. And very few people deny those kinds of things. Everybody knows that, if you live a perfect life, if you are given everything you could possibly want from the day you were born to the day you die, guess what? The day before you die, nobody's going to like you. And when you die, nobody's going to miss you. So people are become better people through their struggles, not through their pleasures. And so I think that those struggles are necessary to forge us as humans. They suck. And some of us get more things thrown at us than others. Why? I don't know. Hopefully on the other side, we'll get a better idea. And Coach Clearfloss says, hope you're feeling better. Oh, man, I will tell you, Coach, if you don't know, I am feeling much worse this week. Went in on Monday for a routine doctor's appointment. 3 days later, got out of the hospital, missing a gallbladder. Yeah. Let's see. Life handed me a lovely bunch of gifts, but I make the best of it. And boy, life is life fun. Well, life, I don't know if I would say life is fun, but life goes on. And Deej says, check stream. Oh, the Stones donated $3. Thank you, Deej. So the Stones donated $3. Sorry, I didn't see that. It says, yes, he tossed us away like old trash. After all this time of hanging out together, we are sad. Well, the Stones may be sad, but sorry, they all went out with the sack they were hanging in. So that's just, I have no sentimental value to keeping my gallstones. And in fact, with the pain they were causing me, good riddance. Thank you, Stones. Unfortunately, the $3, if that's all I get from you guys, well, dang. Yeah, definitely good riddance. Stan Lee says, was wondering, have you been contemplating that even brushing your hair was starting to become... Oh, man, I will tell you, doing my hair has been very tough. Mrs. Antichecker does my hair most of the time now. It's very tough. But I love my hair being long. I don't want to buzz it. Mrs. Antichecker likes my hair long. So it's going to... If it gets to a point where she just doesn't want to have to deal with the hair, then I'll cut it off. But yeah. And Random Menace says, hey, Trey, so you are godlike. I'm on your team, and I also get no special treatment. Well, no, I'm definitely not godlike. Definitely not. But thanks. That you do get special treatment. After all, you got a wrench. That's special treatment. And let's see. And Gobbledygook says, God loves the sinners because our fire burns brighter. I don't think that's quite how it works. Dreamers Out There says, I'm just saying, if suffering builds character, maybe he could send a message or two to Trump or something and let you do something cool, like defeat Kuroga. I would be fine with that, Dreamers Out There. I really would be. But, I try to think of it as if throwing the crap at me is if there's a reason for it, honestly, I'm totally okay with it. The frustrating thing, and this is the part that and this is where atheism is scary to me. And no offense to Yosef, because I know Yosef is an atheist, but this is where, and I'm a former atheist myself, but as a believer, this is the only thing about atheism that I find disturbing at all, is that if atheism is true, then suffering really does, it serves no purpose. And so that means that the person who suffers in the hospital for weeks or months or sometimes even years, that the doctors fight and struggle to keep alive, but ultimately they end up passing away. And not only does that person struggle, but their family struggles to go through it, and the doctors struggle to keep them alive, and the nurse and the staff and all that. And everybody just suffers to go through all that. And it's all just for nothing. It means nothing. And by the way, don't and I know this is not an argument for or against the existence of God. Please don't take it that way, because I'm not making an argument that it is. It's not. But the and not only is that totally meaningless as far as the suffering there, but any accomplishments, any tragedies of any of those people's lives, totally meaningless. Any of the lives of any of their countrymen, totally meaningless. Any of the lives of any of the people on the planet, totally meaningless. Any of the people in the solar system, universe, totally meaningless, because eventually the universe will just go into a heat death. Everything will be done, and there is nothing. And so and again, this is not an argument for the existence of God. I'm not making that, because I know some people try to make it out that meaning is an argument for existence. It's not. But that's the one thing that I find disturbing about atheism, is the idea that there truly is no meaning to anything. That it really is just pointless. And in those kinds of circumstances, I can kind of understand why, if you genuinely believe that, I can kind of understand why some people just, go all, falling down. Anyway, where was I? Bradley says, I pray, I prayed for, man, I can't pronounce anything. Painkillers, hopefully that means they're kicking in soon. I play free online games because I can't afford to play the games I want, and I made a lot of great friends I love very much. Otherwise, I never would have talked to God's plan. And that's the thing too, Bradley. I hear what you're saying there, and that's like I've gotten to know a lot of people that I wouldn't have if not for some of the sufferings that I've gone through. So I'm very thankful for that. Now maybe this particular episode that I'm dealing with right now, I already knew most of you guys already, but who knows what will become of this current episode as far as what's going on. Me and Mrs. Anti-Trekker have decided that we're going to try something different on YouTube. And part of the motivation behind doing this is just kind of taking a hard look at how things are going in the house, and what can we do moving forward. And that may change some things, so who knows, it could be a big change. It might do nothing, but we'll see. Might not know for weeks, months, years, decades. But I hope that, that God continues, I'm pretty sure God will take care of us one way or another, but God never seems to take care of us in quite the way we expect him to. And so I think the hard thing is to drop expectations. And by the way, Bradley, nothing wrong with playing free online games. And I will tell you this, another great thing Steam sales and stuff like that are your friend. So I'm a huge Tekken fan, but Tekken has been sitting there at full price forever and a day. It went on some ridiculous, because it was like something like 80 something bucks, and I'm not paying 80 bucks for Tekken. But then it went on some like 80 something percent sale for like a few hours. So I picked it up for like $5. And so now I have it. So, put things in your wish list if you have Steam, and you'll get email notifications when things go on sale. That is your pal. But yeah. Also, Joseph is happy that he's a tool. Well, of course you're a tool. You work for Dell. But Aberjam says, don't get too excited because anti-checker's a bigger tool than you. Wow, that was just mean. And then he's agreeing that he's just a spanner. Now, you work for Dell. You can't get too much bigger a tool than that. And Deej says, not pointless. Somewhere in the future, there's 3 genetically altered people working on the problem of the universe imploding. They will figure it all out. I hope so. Well, if there's no God, I certainly hope so. Aberjam says, I'm a dipstick, and I can never pronounce your name correctly. Is that Mastikna? Says, change is forever. Not true. If, assuming for a moment, an atheistic worldview, change is not forever, because eventually once heat death kicks in, total entropy will become the status quo, and change will cease. Aberjam says unless it changes back. All right, Tekken's many DLCs added to a free game. Well, no, Tekken was never free. It just had the core game, and then it had the DLC. So it's like 80 something bucks for the whole thing. And I wasn't getting it without the DLC, so I just kept it in the wish list until it went on a stupid sale. Aberjam says, where's your cow mug? It's in the kitchen. Sorry, I forgot to get the cow mug this morning. Dude, I got no sleep last night, and you're sitting there whining to me about not having the cow mug. No love from my friends in the UK, I tell you. This is why I didn't get a boob job, Aberjam, because you don't give me any love, man. If you would just show me some serious love, maybe I'd get the boob job you were wanting me to get. But, since you disrespect me, and all you care about is the cow mug and boobs, that's all you seem to care about. Dreamers out there says, I'm an atheist from watching... It came from watching Second Wave Trek. So much science. I just believe the wonder of the unknown. And it's all meaningless. The point is to find our own meaning. But you see, I disagree with that to a certain extent. Like, first of all, and there's a couple of problems. And this is something that religion has done a piss poor job. And I feel bad for your generation in this, because religion has done a very piss poor job at reaching out to your generation, because people tend to think that there's this like dichotomy that you have to choose between either religion or science, like they're opposites, or they're opposing forces of some kind, that they're not compatible. And that's just a complete and utter lie from the pit of hell, if I can say such a thing. There's not a problem, and in fact, the funny thing is that modern day science came from religion, and the reason is that many people who were devout followers of Christ wanted to explore and learn more about God's creation, so they devised a method at which to more effectively do exactly that. And that's where we got science from. And unfortunately, now we've now kind of separated the two in such a way as to try and act like they're enemies. They're not enemies. They're not really allies either. They're just two different fundamental ways at exploring what the aspects of the universe. I've heard people argue that science explores how the universe works, while religion is more about why the universe works. So science can never address why the universe works. Only, and it doesn't even, like with science, it just basically is a descriptor of various processes. And they're interesting, but you're never going to get the why. You're just going to get the what. When this happens, this happens. Well, why? Well, because when this happens, this happens. Well, why? Because when this happens, that's the only answer you're going to ever get, So it's unfortunate though that that so many that we've just kind of decided that somehow you have to argue creation versus evolution and crap like that, and we've turned it into a battle between the two. Aberjam says, Masticina. Oh, that name. I'll forget it by the time I read it again. Masticina says, on a scientific point, there's so many ways for the universe to die out. Massive black holes, big rips. Well, heat death is the most commonly accepted. As far as I understand, last time I checked, the scientific consensus was heat death is how it's going to go. So until I hear otherwise, that's what I'm going to assume. I'm not a scientist, so I'm just going to go with whatever is the consensus. I'm not going to be around that long, so I'm not too worried about it. And but you mentioned, so a massive black hole would lead to heat death anyway, because it would just radiate out, like you said. And so let's see. Excuse me. And Elihu says, a religion was created to explain the unexplainable, now we call it science. See, I disagree. And I know that's something, that's where, and here's the interesting thing, that's where we get certain types of what you would call like naturalistic religion. Things like Thor and the Greco-Roman myths. But that's not where monotheism comes from. And so there's a big difference. And a lot of people don't see, like, I understand that some people just think of religion as religion, that they're all the same. They're all just believing in magic fairy tales or whatever. And if you can't tell the difference, well, I apologize, but you're not thinking. I'm not saying you're like that, Elihu, because I know you're smarter than that. But a lot of people struggle with this because they can't tell the difference between Thor and a monotheistic creator. But when we look at things like the naturalistic gods, Thor, the various pagan gods of the Norse, of the Greco-Roman myths, of the Druids, all that stuff, what they do is they literally are just very primitive scientific theories. They are simply biological triggers for naturalistic processes, right? So Thor is a biological trigger for thunder. And so, and I know Thor is more than that, but you get what I'm saying. He's got a personality and everything too, but the idea is that they just basically put a personality behind it, but this is the person who is in charge of whatever that process is, and then whenever that process triggers, that person does that. Now, that is very different than the idea of a singular being that has created the entirety of the universe. This is not, and that's, by the way, the very purpose of Genesis is to set the Judeo-Christian God apart from many of these other myths. And if you notice, and this is something that a lot of people lose sight of as well, is that Genesis very much separates the Judeo-Christian God from everything else, because God isn't like hurling lightning bolts, or God doesn't exist in the trees and all that stuff. No, God is responsible for it all. God is basically the creator of the universe, and then God sits back and enjoys it, as opposed to a process of in and of himself. He is a very different thing than simply an explanation of something like a bolt of lightning. And so, Elihu, I hope you don't. I'm not trying to insult you or anything. I hope you know that. But I think that a lot of people have said that, and they're absolutely true of many of the pagan myths, but that is absolutely not true of the Judeo-Christian beliefs, because you simply cannot say that of a monotheistic creator. Anyway, our Yosef says Vatican Observatory is pretty clear proof that religion and science are not opposites. Agreed. And that is not science's job. Science doesn't say why it happens. Exactly, I know. You see, religion gave birth to science, so science could start explaining what happened, or kind of explain the processes, because the why was already known. And plus, there's no other way to, honestly, there would be no way to discern the why outside of some kind of special revelation. Dreamers out there says, for instance, if they find something mysterious by the end, Picard or Janeway explains how it works. That went, I'm not sure how we got to Picard and Janeway. Let's see. For example, they find something mysterious by the end, Picard or Janeway explain how it works, and then it isn't so miraculous. Oh, and then even Quinn, Q2, says their powers just look like magic. Oh, you're talking about like why you... Yeah, well, I get what you're saying, but you see, the problem there is that I get what you're saying. You're saying like the way they did it on Trek, it kind of demystifies things, and that's part of the piss poor writing of Generation 2 of Trek, to be honest. If you'd seen TOS, I was a big fan of TOS. TOS didn't try to say that all, God was just something that you could snap your fingers and run a tachyon scan on and get all the answers. It doesn't work that way. But I get it. That's a different, it's an unfortunate thing. You are a product of your age, and I hope that one day you'll come around. Deej says, say he won't be around that long. He's been around since the beginning. Jerk. By the way, Deej, hopefully, I'm assuming you're good for this Wednesday. I don't know if there's been any news this week. If there has, send it to me via Twitter, and we'll talk on Wednesday night. But I'm hoping that I'll be up to doing the show on Wednesday, and I'm hoping you will too. And let's see. Dreamers out there says, but Quinn says Q's powers are just like tricorder. They just look more advanced, those who don't understand it. Well, that goes back to an old thing that I think it was Arthur C. Clarke wrote, that any sufficiently advanced technology would look like magic to a relative, if somebody showed up and had sufficiently advanced technology, it would look like magic to us. If it didn't look like magic to us, it just wasn't sufficiently advanced. You just have to go further into the future. So if someone from 100 years in the future showed up and showed me their technology, it might not look like magic, but someone from 10,000 years in the future shows up, it's going to probably look like magic. If not, someone from 1,000,000 years in the future, it's absolutely going to look like magic. Which, by the way, is also interesting enough, is what if it's someone from outside of time? meaning so they are at apex technology. That the technology could not be any more advanced, and they live outside of what we call time. What would their technology be like? Because I think about and that's what I think of, like angelic beings from the Bible. And what so like when we have descriptions in the Bible of angels doing things like calling down lightning from the heavens, you know, wonder what that looked like. Um, And Eliyahu who says, when does religion become mythology? Well, mythology is actually just a term used for a collection of stories. So any group of stories, like for example, there is the Judeo-Christian, like there's the Christian mythology is what we would call the Old and New Testaments combined. The Jewish mythology is what we call the Old Testament, but then there's also some additional stuff that falls within Jewish mythology as well, like the stories of Lilith and stuff like that. And then there's the Islamic mythology, which would be the Old Testament and the Book of Islam, etc. Then, of course, you have the Greco-Roman myths, which we generally refer to as Greek or Roman mythology, blah, blah, blah. So even though usually mythology is meant as a derogatory when we're talking about religion, because a lot of times when we say mythology, we're trying to imply that it is not factual by saying it's myth. It's only a myth as opposed to its fact. Mythology can actually be factual. So when does religion become mythology? When there's a group of stories that are linked together, it is a set of mythology. And Professor Brady Speck says, heat death more than Google years from now is the most widely accepted idea, yet due to quantum mechanics, in the very distant future, new universes could spontaneously start. Yeah, I don't buy into that crap. I honestly don't buy into that crap, Professor Brady Speck. I think that a lot of the stuff that in quantum mechanics that is basically crazy events that'll take place because of mathematical anomalies are not going to happen, because I don't think that they're going to happen just because of a mathematical anomaly. And I know people think that that's crazy. Oh no, Schrodinger's cat really is both alive and dead. No, the cat is either alive or it's dead. Opening the box doesn't suddenly kill it or make it alive. But anyway, let's see. If being evolved to a point of knowing and controlling all power in the universe. Hold on, let me zoom in. I'm having trouble reading right now because my brain. There we go. If being evolved to a point of knowing and controlling all power in the universe, the only logical thing would be to destroy itself to restart the universe and end of its existence. That statement is, I do not understand the point of that statement. I'm sorry. You might be trying to make a statement there, gobbledygook, but maybe it's because your name is gobbledygook that came off as gobbledygook. Aberjam says, I find it intriguing that existence is governed by so many laws, and yet the majority of the scientific community starts at the idea of an intelligent creator, scoffs at the idea of an intelligent creator. I don't even think that the majority of the scientific community scoffs at the idea. I think that it's only there's a vocal minority that do, because if you look at the scientific community as a whole, many of them are actually theists. I just think that it is not currently politically expedient for them to come out as Christian. But at the same time, I think that as far as in circles of cosmology, I understand it's difficult. Here's the problem with cosmology, and this is where hopefully Dr. Alex isn't here because he and I will get into a big old fight when it comes to cosmology and quantum mechanics and stuff. The whole purpose of some of the stuff that they're trying to do in cosmology is to try and desperately come up with a way that the universe can exist without God. And then what they do is if they come up with some ridiculous, no matter how stupid and cockamamie and outlandish way, some stupid, crazy way that the universe might possibly be able to exist without a God, and then they say, see, it could possibly work that way, therefore we've proven God doesn't exist because that's the way it happened. As if that's 100% proof of something. That kind of crap, I'm sorry. I have no respect for that level of thinking. And the sad thing is that people say, oh, nobody says that. And then 2 minutes later, somebody will say just that. So that kind of thinking, whatever. I don't have a problem with people saying, hey, I don't believe in God, but, and here's how I think the universe came into existence, but you're going to have a really tough time coming up with a rational, reasonable explanation as to the creation of the universe without a God that doesn't just sound like stupidity, to be honest with you. Well, it just happens. Giant brains like slapping around all the time. Why not? Oh, what's the evidence of that? I said it happens. Right, but what's the evidence? Well, I said it happens. Well, do you have any evidence? Well, the math works out. Right, but is there any evidence whatsoever? Yeah, the math works. So there's no evidence. Well, no, I said it happens and the math works. Okay, no evidence. But that's just the reason for the theory is so that we can try to say we don't have to have God. And you would think that if it was a naturalistic explanation, there would be evidence towards it. After all, isn't the whole purpose of science to just go wherever the evidence points? Well, if the evidence doesn't point to an assumption of a God or no God, how about we just stop trying to make assumptions? Anyway, what if Schrodinger's cat was undead? Well, that would be very creepy. And Abergen says, thank you for, I've been saying for years that Schrodinger's cat is a load of BS. Well, a lot of that stuff is. I'm sorry. It is. The cat is either alive or dead. You open the box and you can confirm it. Dreamers Out There says, BSG 203, Ronald Moore said the messengers or angels guiding the humans and Cylons were a higher race living outside of time, trying to break the cycle of time for the humans, like this idea. I always thought it was interesting. I mean, I know that Ronald D. Moore was kind of trying to take a different concept of God and angels, and I thought it was an interesting idea. He didn't really develop it as far as I thought he wanted to, and I get the feeling it was probably because the Sci-Fi Channel didn't want him to. But I would have liked to have seen where he was going with it. Bird says, Kapla, any chance you will put up your old video clips from Friday movie night on YouTube? Any chance you will put up your old video clips from Friday movie night on YouTube? What old video clips, Bird? I'm not quite sure. Please keep in mind, I have not slept in like 36 hours, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. Help me out here, Bird. What are you talking about? Because I didn't delete the live stream. What are you talking about? Richie says, Kapla. Professor Brady Speck says, shows just as an analogy of what happens at the quantum level. A macroscopic object such as a cat is either alive or dead, but the quantum level has been observed over and over. The subatomic particles are in a state of superposition. Double slit experiment, the most famous of these observations. I understand what it's supposed to be, Professor Brady Speck. Doesn't change the fact that it's BS. I understand that the problem is that they try to say that there are all these, like it's just like the mini worlds idea, right? How many there are people that seriously subscribe to the mini worlds concept, and and I'm sorry. Aside from interesting sci-fi, that's all it is. And the problem is that, and again, I understand superposition is interesting and all that, but let's just leave it as it is, as a mathematical anomaly, and that's pretty much all it is. But instead, we want to try to make it into something that it's not, and we argue about, and so people actually believe that Schrodinger's cat is a cat that is alive and dead at the same time. People try to argue that there's 17 billion different versions of us in actual existence running around. So there's a you where you're a girl, and there's a you where you have 3 arms and all this other crap. So, but yeah. So, whatever. Bird says, the videos of you from the 90s, 2000 were shown on YouTube. Oh, those. Okay, you know what, Bird? I will, I'll have to recut those, and I'll do something with those. You're right. Yeah, those didn't show up because, those just stayed in the movie. Of course, maybe you shouldn't have slept through the stream. You jerk. But yeah, I will put them up. That was a lot of fun. And so, but yes, I will put those. I will put those on the channel in the next couple of days. Soon as I'm actually working on getting some stuff together with Mrs. Anti-Trekker. So, and then once I get that, then I'll get that done. And yeah, no, I can't believe Bird of Prey 5's falling asleep on a live stream. That's shocking. But I gotta say, and it's too bad because it was a lot of fun, that live stream. It's amazing. Me and Matthew, we kept going for 6 straight hours. On that live stream. But yeah, the movie was a blast. The short films were a blast. All those commercials, and thank you, Bird, for recording those little bumpers for those commercials, because they were just absolutely perfect. They were all just a blast. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Anyway, let's see. John Meyer says, many worlds, poops all over one true God scripture. Well, it's not even that. I mean, first of all, the many worlds is an attempt to, there's a couple of different variants of many worlds, but the multiverse concept was an idea to try and deal with the fine-tuning argument. As far as that's where that first started. So the multiverse idea, where people basically were saying, well, there's fine tuning, like if gravitational fields were a little bit off, if various constants in the universe were off a little bit here, a little bit there, then life couldn't possibly exist, blah, blah, blah. And so the answer to that was, well, what if there's actually an infinite number of universes, and the only reason that you're in a universe that can support life is because, well, there's an infinite number of universes. So of course you're in a universe that can support life, because in all the universes where you can't support life, you're not there. See? And which, okay, that's stupid, but also logically consistent. Except that you can't have an actualized infinite, but, I understand, don't let facts get in the way of, trying to come up with excuses to get rid of God. However, so that's where like the multiverse concept came from. As far as the mini worlds, like where every time you make a choice, new universes branch into existence, from that kind of popped in from the mini worlds interpolation of one of the quantum formulas. I can't remember which one. Professor Brainspecs is mad at me for mentioning it. Says, don't equate the many worlds theory with quantum mechanics. It's one and the same. Many worlds theory is an idea to make sense of the superposition, not the answer for it. Well, Professor Brainspecs, I'm not saying it is quantum mechanics. I understand it is. What is the correct term? Is the many worlds interpolation, or the many whatever it is, but however you say it. There are people that genuinely believe in it, that every time a decision needs to be made, that a new universe is popped into existence, which I think is a total load of crap. And again, it's just a way to try and avoid the problem of free will in a God-free universe. So that's a way to do that. Average M says, Bird of Prey 5 is a serial stream napper. Indeed, he is. Stanley says, like the town where the single barber is the only allowed to shave people who don't shave themselves. So who shaves the barber? He can't shave himself if he shaves people who don't shave themselves. Okay, now you're hurting my head. I try not to think too hard. Yeah, me too. Tressa says, anti-wrecker. I hate the many world theory makes for mostly bad sci-fi writing. I agree. I mean, it makes for some fun episodes of Star Trek and stuff, but aside from that, it's absolutely ludicrous, right? And so we need to stop thinking that that's real science. But there are a lot of people that genuinely believe this crap. And again, a lot of the reason that they believe in it is because it makes it easier to believe in that because you don't need God if the universe works that way. Because with many worlds, then the universe exists in every possible configuration, which means that, of course, while it's going to exist in all the various millions of ways that it can exist where life can't exist, it will also exist in the way where it can exist, which is the important thing. And Professor says, again, Schrodinger's cat is an illustration. Yeah, I know what Schrodinger's cat is. The point is, Professor, that people take it as an actual cat thought. They take the thought experiment as being an actual... You have to understand, lay people don't understand what Schrodinger's cat is, and the superposition thing, they need to leave it as it is and stop trying to use Schrodinger. Man, I cannot talk today. Schrodinger's cat to explain it. They just need to stop because it's a horrible example. And Stanley says turtles all the way down. I agree. It's just turtles. Just think of that, a cat the size of a black hole. Now, that would be terrifying. That would be terrifying. Average says, a lot of new emerging theories about the origins of existence just seem to be me like desperate attempts to get away from giving the credit to God. Well, that's the problem, is that they're, it's funny because ever since they figured out that the universe is expanding, which, it's kind of ironic that, the first real empirical evidence as to the nature of the universe itself, and every piece of empirical evidence as far as cosmology is concerned, has pointed to the same thing. And which is that the universe has a definitive beginning. And that is something that the secular, atheistic, naturalistic worldview types do not want to deal with. And so because to them, that is an absolute non-starter. We cannot have the universe having an absolute beginning. So if the universe cannot have an absolute beginning, where do we go from that? Well, if the universe did have an absolute beginning, then we need to come up with some kind of excuse for that to happen without a cause of any kind. So we need to either come up with some kind of way that a set of circumstances could trigger the universe without a cause, which is ludicrous, or we need to come up with a way that the universe has been infinitely in existence, which is also ludicrous. And yet that's what they keep trying to do. Jordan asked, did you delete a bunch of your videos? No, I unlisted a bunch of them because a lot of them had stuff in them that I just feel like had content that I could not support. And I need to rethink some of the stuff that I said, particularly like in my last Jedi review. The fact that I was saying F you, Ryan Johnson, over and over and over, I felt that was inappropriate. And let's see. Indeed, we have, let's see. Indeed, so we have the theory that leads actively to practical solutions. Sometimes it requires a lot of theory to make good practical solutions. That's true. Good to see you out of the hospital. Get well. May God hold you within his hands. Thank you so much, MC. I hope he does. You owe me $100 because I didn't have enough booze for Friday's movie, especially the SpongeBob part. Well, Jordan, I'll tell you what. You send me how much? $280,000, and I will send you $100. Is your favorite director David Lynch, Anti-Tracker? Friday was as crazy as Twin Peaks. I'll take that as that you enjoyed it. No, actually, I'm not a big David Lynch fan, to be honest with you. But I did have fun on Friday. I thought that was just crazy fun. I thought that, man, I just love watching Matthew's brain just get stretched further and further until I thought it was going to snap at one point. I truly did. Yeah, but I still need about $200,000. Schrodinger's cat likes to go for walks on a leash and chase squirrels. That would not surprise me. Tristan says, is it just me or does the many worlds theory make for mostly bad sci-fi writing, bearing a few exceptions? I agree. Aberton says, it's curious. We seem to think the universe is expanding, but nobody has considered that maybe it's just falling apart. Oh, man. I think you might be right. George says, I love the FUs in your videos. You know what? The problem is, and I get it, that they're fun. And I know that they're not, and some people, it was kind of funny because the other night we were talking about this on my live stream. They're not meant to be, like mean-spirited. They're not meant to be personal attacks. And even though they're directed right at Ryan Johnson, I get the feeling that most people didn't take them as really like threatening to Ryan Johnson. But at the same time, man, I was really just saying F you, Ryan Johnson, over and over and over, to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm not really comfortable with this. And as much as I agree that it was genuinely funny, I can't just sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to criticize people for being mean-spirited and leave that on my channel. You know, Jordan, and it's not, I gotta, you know, because I don't want to be a hypocrite. That's, and I can't leave that up there and at the same time say it's not okay to be a hate monger. You know what I'm saying? And the person whose name I will never pronounce says, I love science and history, but also seeing it applied. Well, I love science. I'll be honest. I love science. Not a huge fan of history. Not because, like, I don't hate history. I'm just not as good with history. Mainly, I think, because with my dyslexia, I sucked at reading history textbooks. You know, I love the technology that we get from modern science. I think that there's a common misconception that a lot of people think that if someone is religious, they must hate science. And part of the reason that I like doing these Sunday morning live streams is I want to make it very clear that just because I happen to be pro God doesn't mean I'm anti science, because I love me some good science. I love the fact that we have, the interwebs. I love having all these wonderful modern technologies. I love the fact that despite the fact that I'm in agonizing pain, I can sit here in this chair and talk to 20 odd of my friends spread all over the globe and just hang out, and hopefully, I'll recover soon and all will be well. But we unfortunately, we get into these situations where we all have preconceived notions about each other. We think that people who are this is a problem with religious people. We think that people that are non-believers hate all religious people, right? We think that people who are non-believers think that like we're just walking around looking for non-believers going witch, or that we're or that we are sitting there wearing pilgrim hats and I don't know doing crazy things, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, hanging out with the family. Oh man, there's a song. But we all got to get rid of those preconceived notions. We can hang out together. We can have fun together, and so those of us that are believers, we should and those of us that aren't, we can still be friends. And then hopefully those of us that and we'll still argue about this stuff, but that's good as long as we can be friends about it. As long as we're not dicks. That's the important thing. And Indie Tiger says F history. It could just go and repeat itself. Well, isn't that what happens when you just say F history? Isn't that the whole point? And there's some famous quote about that, if I remember correctly. It's funny. I see that the Google subtitles are on, and it's like I see that and I'm like, I wonder how close to what I'm saying the subtitles are. Let me start reading them. You no longer were not dicks, and that's the important thing. And Andy Tiger says F history. Well, that's not what happens when you just say F history. Isn't that the whole point? And there's some famous quote about I correctly, and it's funny. I see that the Google whatchamacallit subtitles are on, and it's like I see that I'm close to what I'm saying. The subtitles are on. Let me start reading them. You are no longer were dicks, and the important thing is Andy history. It will not then what happened. History isn't the whole history point. Famous quote about I that Google whatchamacallit subtitles are on. Well, yeah, it gets harder and harder to read, so I'm not going to keep reading it because it will hurt my brain. All right, so let's see. And Trust was apologizing for a double post. So you misspelled my name. You're not. Hey, you're not allowed to misspell anything. You know that I demand perfect spelling from everybody. After all, I have never misspelt a word in the history of this channel. Ever. Did Robert ever show up? Seriously, did Robert just not show up today? I'm going to be really pissed about him. Robert, he's on my list now. I usually don't take attendance, but today I'm making an exception. Robert Rose, you're in trouble, buddy. Professor Brainspec says, if Deej is still here, recursive occlusion, someone's manipulating Castrovalva were caught in a space-time trap? Huh? I have no idea what Professor Brainy Specs is talking about. Making my head hurt. I think part of it is just because, as I'm sure you guys can tell, the pain pills are definitely kicking in full swing at this point. So I'm definitely just a little bit spacey, loopy, timey-wimey, which would make sense since I'm reading a Professor Brainy Specs post. But, you know, you guys aren't posting much, so I'm just sitting here waiting for somebody to post something. And having daily sex is no excuse for bad grammar. Well, having daily sex is lots of excuses for lots of things. So. I mean, you know, I'm perfectly content having daily sex. Period. That was the end of the sentence. Stanley is saying we for some reason. I don't know, you're saying that just about the painkillers, or are you just saying that because you felt like saying that? And Indy Tiger is talking to Professor Brainy Specs, asking, you're referring to Doctor Who. He probably is. I know that he was talking earlier about how excited he is that the next Doctor Who is apparently going to be an LGB X7DJFCTHOLGSW person. I think I got all the proper letters. I mean, why can't they just do it right? Instead of all this crap with LGX737321 stuff. Am I not on live chat? Oh, I'm not. Shoot. I am so sorry, guys. Let me switch that. If I've been missing your chat, that's entirely on me. Anyway, if I don't know if I have any liberals in here right now, but if you're a liberal and watching this stream right now, can you please change it to just NSWM from now on? Please, can you please just change it to NSWM? None of this LG, because I can't keep track. You keep adding more letters, and it confuses the crap out of me. So just make it NSWM. And we're all fixed. Dreamers out there says, so do you not believe in the Big Bang? What's cosmic? When did I say I didn't believe? First of all, I don't believe in the Big Bang. Like, I don't think the Big Bang is like something to believe in. But yeah, I think the evidence points to the Big Bang. That would be part of what I was saying, that all the evidence thus far points to the universe having an absolute beginning, which is a problem for the cosmologists. And Aberjam says, we post plenty of comments, you just don't read how. Yeah, I think I had it on the top chat. That's on me. And so, let's see. And TOS says, good morning. How you doing, my friend? Stanley says, yes, we, because of oxycodone. Yeah. Good stuff. Since it's Sunday, I won't ask your opinion on Roman Polanski. Well, thanks, I guess. You know what? My opinion on Roman Polanski is the same every day of the week. He belongs in prison. No one was chatting. Bird of Prey says, Bigfoot is an alien who beamed down and assassinated JFK, then went through a time portal to set explosives to make Building 7 collapse on 9/11, then got a sex change and ran for president in 2016. You are in top chat this whole time, jerk. Well, I wish I was on top chat for that one. Although, so Bert, I didn't know you ran for president in 2016. Um, I mean, I knew you were a Bigfoot, but I didn't know the rest of it. Um, and Stanley says, I used to think I was a liberal, but that was when liberals seemed to mean live and live, not live how we think is appropriate. Busy bird feeders this morning. Are they? Yeah. Um, and let's see. And the person whose name I cannot pronounce says, what? Well, NSWM. That's what we need to change it to. Not stuff. And Professor Brainspec says, wow, I'm not sure why. But can we get that trending? NSWM. We need to get that trending, people. We absolutely need to do that. We in the nerd community can make a difference to move towards greater tolerance by making it so that we're not going to do the LG or the LGT or the LGTB or the LBGT or LQGTB. No, it's going to be the NSWM community from now on. And for some reason, the person whose name I cannot pronounce says, bird feeders, are you getting hungry? Professor Brainspec says, wow. Aberjam says, repost. I was serious about universe falling apart from inside would look like expansion. Plus, we know the fall of man caused creation enter a state of constant degradation. Yeah, but from what we see, I mean, if you're talking from a theological standpoint, we know how the Bible describes the end of the universe, and I don't think that that type of a universal collapse would kind of line up with that. And Mako asks, what is NSWM, as does Professor Brainy Specs. I was kind of wondering if anybody was going to care what it actually meant, but it should make perfect sense to you guys. It means not straight white male. Right? Because that's what they want it to be. They want it to be everything that's not straight white male. And that includes there's all that you want to identify as, transgender headlight fluid. Great, that's not straight white male, right? You want to be, whatever it is, it's not straight white male. And there you go. So, not straight white male, because straight white men are the one and only thing that it's okay to still discriminate against. So, not straight white male community. And Aberjam says, I personally prefer NGAF. Well, I don't know what that stands for. Trustin says, Robert's got me curious about your next Templar video. Well, yeah, see, Robert's got me pissed off. Where'd he go? A jerk. All right, so, and person whose name I can't pronounce. That's why I say if we made it NSWM, we're just being honest about it, right? That's the funny thing about it. That's honestly what it is. Right, is that we all know it, right? Because when they start adding more stuff, they're just trying to add some other way of saying not a straight white male. And so why not just add, and so if I say, oh, you mean not a straight white male? And if they say, no, because I'm actually multi-trans-dimensional fluid. Well, that's not straight white male, right? No? Okay, so not straight white male. Got it. Oh, yeah, I like that too, Aberjam. Yeah, nobody gives a... Yeah, I like that. But I'll spend a minute and I'll talk about the Robert thing. And then I'll wrap it up because these painkillers are making me feel really loopy. And I'm sure you guys don't feel like listening to me ranting on, sounding like a drunk old man. I sound like drunk uncle from Saturday Night Live right about now. So last week on the Sunday stream, you guys may or may not remember, and I got to open up the window here if I can reach this stupid thing. Because I can't see the birds. It's been driving me nuts. I haven't been able to see the birds. All right, so last week on the Sunday morning stream, you may remember Robert was here and we were talking about a bunch of stuff at random. And he was bringing up his personal Christian beliefs. And he said that he was what he described himself as a messianic Christian. And I challenged him a little bit, and and said that, look, I asked him if he was a messianic. Did he mean that he was a Jew who believed in the Messiah? Like a messianic Jew is a real thing. It's a Jew who has basically accepted Christ. And if you are a Jew who's accepted Christ, it's a little different than being a Christian, because it means that you're still basically following most of the Jewish traditions and high holy days and stuff, but you are also accepting that Christ was the Messiah and died for our sins and all that. But as a messianic Christian, there's not really a precedence for that. And so Robert was saying that that's what he was, however, that he was a messianic Christian. And I said that seems like a little bit of kind of a dangerous position to be in from a theological perspective, that he should be either a Christian as a Gentile under the authority of a priest or pastor or, whatever type of clergy person in the Christian world, or he should be submitted on the Jewish side under a rabbi, go to temple and all that, and do it through the Jewish route. Although, quite frankly, that if he was not already a practicing Jew, that going the Christian route would make a lot more sense, because generally speaking, if you're not already a Jew, you wouldn't want to be one just for the parties. I mean, it's one of those things, like, if I saw a rabbi once in an interview, and it was really great because he was very honest about it. He says, the interviewer was saying, well, don't you want everybody to convert to Judaism? And he's like, why in the world would I want that? We have extra responsibilities that you don't. And so he was like, why would I want you to have to deal with this and this and this and this? Now, he was not a Messianic Jew, so he didn't believe in the Messiah. But he said even if he did, he would still have extra responsibilities that the Christian does not. So then Robert then pointed out two specific YouTube channels that he said illustrate his position as a Messianic Christian. And I can't remember the name of the second one, but the first one that he gave me was a gentleman named Michael Rood, Rood. And his ministry is called A Rood Awakening, which I gotta say, hilarious name. Loved it. If I had a name like Rude for my last name, I would hope that I would think of something as clever as that. So he has a ministry called A Rude Awakening, and so I'm like, okay, let's check this guy out. And Robert, oh man, if you actually believe this guy, dude, you are in a cult, straight up. This guy, Rude, He wants one thing and one thing only. He wants your money, and he wants you to worship him, not Jesus. And in fact, he straight up, it's funny because I watched, over this last week, I watched about 8 to 10 hours of Rude's content on his channel. And and even stuff specifically looking for what are his core beliefs. What is it that he, believes are his central doctrinal beliefs and truths. And you know what he doesn't seem to believe? That Jesus is God. Doesn't seem like he thinks that. You know what he does think Jesus is? A prophet. He doesn't see, and so he thinks Jesus is the same thing that the Muslims do. And I'm not trying to say that to diss my Muslim friends out there, because, but Muslims are not Christians. And I'm sorry, but if you're a follower of Michael Rood, from what I can see, you're not a Christian. And in fact, Michael Rood rewrote the Gospels into what he calls the chronological Gospels. And he says you have to read the chronological Gospels in order to understand the Gospels. So you have to read his version of the Gospels to understand the Gospels in order to be saved. And you have to, do the high holy days and all that stuff. So, yeah. Total culty kind of thing. If you follow Rude, I would say run away. And by the way, also kind of funny, in 2010, Rude got busted for tax evasion. View from a lookout says, "Hey, how you doing, my friend? Saw you were in the hospital." Yes, indeed. So, funny story. Went in on Monday for a routine doctor's visit. Got out on Wednesday short a gallbladder. It was a very rough week. But thank you for asking. Yes, I did end up getting surgery this week, and I am glad. I should say last week, since Sunday is technically the first day of the week. And let me say this about the Messianic Christians, because I'm not judging all Messianic Christians based on this guy Michael Rood. I don't think that Michael Rood necessarily represents them all, and there's other Messianic Christians that Robert asked me to check out that I will. But the core disagreement where Messianic Christians seem to want to split from quote-unquote mainstream Christianity is over the idea that they believe that the Gospel of Matthew was originally written in Hebrew, whereas the manuscript evidence shows that it was originally written in Greek. Now, the argument that it was written in Greek is very simple. 100% of the manuscript evidence is that it was written in Greek. That's pretty much the only argument that there is, and that's a pretty compelling argument. The argument for it written in Hebrew is that, some of the writing style is very Hebrew, that it's obvious that Matthew is very educated in writing in Hebrew, and there is a interesting third-party writing that says that he may have written it in Hebrew, although that particular writing is also something you could call into question, because it's you really have to, Aberjam, it's not a redundant term, because a Messianic Christian actually means that you are a person who follows the Messianic law, the Jewish law, and you follow the Messiah, as opposed to being a Gentile who follows the Christ. And in fact, that's where these terms kind of fall into each other, is that Christian is someone who follows the Christ. Messianic is someone who follows the Messiah. So Messianic would be a Jew. A Christian would be a Greek. And so that's where some of when you look at the ancient terminology, there was definitely a difference between the two. In the modern terminology, we look at these and what's the difference? But and so the Messianic Christians are kind of a very small niche group, because most people don't know about the fact that Matthew may have been originally written in Hebrew and then translated to Greek very early on. The problem is there's zero manuscript evidence for a Hebrew copy of Matthew, and even if, and so the idea though is that Constantine may have wanted to eliminate the Hebrew Matthew and was successful in doing so, and in order to like reset the calendar and stuff like that to get it. This is where some of the conspiracy stuff comes into play, and History Channel type stuff, and most of the stuff does not really add up. So most of the conspiracy stuff I tend to throw out, but if you look at the only stuff that really seems to be plausible is that it is possible that the original Greek manuscripts were actually very close translations of Hebrew manuscripts. It's a possibility, but is it likely that there's any significant changes to the Bible? Very unlikely, because even if it's true, it looks like Matthew was the only book of the Bible that was originally written in Hebrew. The other books were not, and the epistles were definitely not, and so it wouldn't have changed the message of the New Testament in any significant way whatsoever, despite the fact that the Messianic Christians would have you believe that it does, especially Mr. Rood. So yeah, that's the short story long there. Mountains of Elysium's in the house, says, hey, how you doing, my friend? Hope you are well. And Gobbledygook says the audio cut out. Is it still out, or is it working? Let me try. Significant way whatsoever. Look, sounds like it's working. So hopefully it's working. A non-Jew who follows traditional Jewish tenets as a proselyte. Man, I can't read. A non-Jew who follows traditional Jewish tenets is a proselyte if they also believe in Christ and they are a messianic proselyte or a Christian proselyte. Average Am, I'm not trying to argue with you about it, okay? I'm not. I'm just letting you know about this particular, as far as being a messianic, as far as being a messianic Jew versus a messianic Christian. These messianic Christians think that there's this huge conspiracy about the Bible that I'm not buying. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to argue with you about stuff. I know you like to argue with me about some of this. And you know what? Probably some of the differences as far as what you're saying versus what I'm saying is because you're in the UK versus the United States. That's probably it. And I know you like to pick a fight over semantics, but I'm not gonna take the bait on that today. I'm hurting too much. Anyway, but that's about it. So we'll see what happens with that. But I put out, so I did a video. I showed a couple of things. My biggest problem is that with Mr. Rood, yeah, the only thing he cares about is getting your money. That's it. Richie says you make more sense when you're on painkillers. Really? Well, maybe we should start doing a fundraiser for me to move to a state where you can get painkillers all the time. And that'd be fun. And by painkillers I mean herbal supplements that unfortunately are not legal in this state. But because unfortunately, while the oxy stuff works, I would much rather take the herbal supplements that are legal in other states because they're less harsh on your body, and I can control the dosage better. But unfortunately, they're just not available here. All right, so see if you guys got any questions for me before I wrap things up. I will try to do a stream on the Twitch channel either later today or tomorrow. I'm sorry I haven't been on Twitch all week, but it was obviously because of the unexpected trip to the emergency room. And tomorrow night be the virtual pub. Wednesday night, me and the bunny will be on. Friday night, we'll be doing Jeopardy, assuming all goes well. And then in between all those, we'll stream wherever we can, whenever we can. So no questions. Going once. So there's always a delay. I never know how long to delay. So what should we do? Oh, I can see my drink. So I'll move my drink over here. All right, so that's the going once. Oh, it's in Lord M says, somebody told me I'm going to hell because me and my wife are in an interracial couple because I'm white and she's black. Where does that say in the Bible? Well, Lord, let me tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so Lord, I don't know who told you that, but let me oh boy, do I need to find the right part. I am so glad you came in right there, Lord M. I don't know. I don't know if you know me or not, or if you just happen to ask that right now. Let's see. Oh, did you ask a question? Makes sense. When did that start happening? When did what start? I'm sorry, Professor. When did what start happening? While I'm looking this up. Let's see. All right, so let's see. That's where's her name? Now I need to look that up. There's a nice picture. So, Jen says you're going straight to hell. Let me see. I want to be able to bring this picture up. Save image. We'll put it in the Michael Rood directory. Why not? I think Antrix Tree, I don't know the many words he doesn't, in the many worlds he doesn't believe in. You're making sense. When did that start happening? Oh, good question. I don't know, man. That shouldn't happen too often. All right, so Lord M. I don't see. Man, you didn't answer me, Lord M. Where are you regular around here, or did you? Because you asking that question just blows me away. So I'm very curious. What are you new around here? Because I don't know. Your name sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know how often you've been here, if you have before. So please answer me if you can. And see, now Lord M's not going to answer me, and it's going to drive me crazy for like the rest of my days. I'll tell you, this is one of those things that's going to really, really bug me, because I love that question, but before I answer it, I just really want to know that about him. Are you there, Lord? Please tell me you're there, Lord M. At least just tell me you're there. You've slipped into another mini worlds where Lord M is a regular. Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Lord M, are you there, buddy? And now slipped out. I think that might have happened. Lord M, are you there? You've stopped the show now. Everybody, we're all pulling for you, buddy. We need to hear from you. Just put one letter in the chat and so we know you're there. Come on, Lord M. I know you're there. I hope you're there. I don't know what if you're having trouble. Like, is your computer like on the other side of the room and you're like crawling there trying to get to it, trying to get so that you could type in a response. And so, the average Jam, don't try to answer. I got an answer for him, but I absolutely have a solid answer for Lord M. I have a very solid answer for Lord M. And in fact, I have an answer to end all answers for Lord M. But I want to hear from Lord M, because Lord M's not even here. What's the point in answering Lord M's question? But I don't know what happened, because now Lord M's not answering. Like, Lord M asked the question and then just left. And everybody in the chat is like saying, Lord M, where are you, Lord M? NTM. I mean, seriously, did Lord M just leave? Lord M left the chat after that wonderful question? Because that just hurts. There he goes. I was a regular on my old YouTube. Okay. So, Lord M, let me show you a picture. I'm going to bring it here. Here we go. There we have a interracial couple. As you can see, white guy, black chick. And, dark skin, black chick, white guy, epic beard. Not quite as epic as, my beard, but getting there. Pretty good. I'm just kidding. So, but I want you to know who these people are specifically. I do not, if anybody ever tries to tell you about interracial relationships in the Bible, this is the couple I want you to go to. All right? Because when people tried to, it drives me crazy. People tried to use this, say that the Bible says that you cannot have interracial relationships. So you might be able to guess who the dude is just by what's in his hand there. So that is Moses and his wife Zipporah. Moses, as you may know, is, obviously Jewish and, out of Egypt, but he is full-blooded Jew. And Zipporah is Ethiopian. So they are a true 100% interracial married couple. So let's not pretend that interracial was a problem in the Bible. So anyway, that was one I was just wanted to make sure that you saw that with your own two eyes there. And that is a classic painting. You can look up that painting on Google, but that is Moses and his Ethiopian wife, Zipporah. And his wife's name is spelled Zipporah. And yes, she is real African right there. She almost looks like Mrs. Anti-Checker a little bit. So, I think me and Mrs. Anti-Checker could cosplay as Moses and Zipporah. So, let's see. So, but let's see. No, Lord M is definitely not a Krogan spy. Now, stop that. He's at the Krogan embassy. Let's see. News just in. Recent information. Lord M is in fact an orphan. Delegates fear the Bird of Prey 5 uncovered the sensitive data. Asked for a Krogan asylum. And Lord says anti-tracker stance is real African. I used to be regular on the old account. Account was hacked. I can't get into it. No problem, man. No problem. But your name sounded familiar at Lord M, but I think you probably signed in before with it. But Assuming that was a legit question, there's your answer, man. There is your answer, 100%. And Average M thinks that Moses looks like Willem Dafoe, but Professor Brainspec says that I look like Moses in that painting. Does the missus have a cool hat? Well, she doesn't have a hat quite like that one, but she does have an African hat. So, we'll have to work on that. And so... And Average M says, I buy Mrs. Antchecker at Sephora, but Moses was most definitely not a hobbit. Jerk. But honestly, thank you for the question. Random Edit says, but can you split the sea? Well, have not tried. So maybe, well, you know what? I'll bet you that if my brother Aaron gave me a magic staff, I could. There you go. I would bet you that. So all I need is my brother's magic staff. So and I could do it. So and yeah, I'd do it. But thank you, Lord Ed, for the question. And see, we all learned something today. And now I am going to tell Mrs. Antitrekker that we should change our YouTube channel name from Onyx and Zarkon to Moses and Zephora. Which no one will get, but that's okay. And Average says, I've heard Antitrekker's defenses of J.J. Abrams. He can definitely draw blood from a stone. Wow, that's kind of mean. I can break wind, but I cannot part the sea. Antitrekker 2021. Well, I can definitely break wind. I'll give you that. But yeah. Well, I best Antitrekker has a tablet. Well, yeah, I do have a tablet. I have. See if I can pick it up here. See, I got my tablet right here. It's a more modern one. In fact, because this is now, granted, it's not modern now. Well, it's modern, but it's like a couple of years old. But this one could hold thousands of commandments. So there's that. All right, guys. So any other questions before I wrap it up? We'll give it just a second here. But that was actually a really good one. Thank you again, Lord M. And that was a Owl Wilson wow. I'm not sure why you said that, Mako. But unless maybe you heard Puka barking there in the background. All right, so I'm going to assume that we don't have any other questions. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. And like I said, if I have some energy, maybe I'll do a game stream or something on the Twitch channel today or tomorrow. Tomorrow night, definitely hang out on the virtual pub, at least for a little bit. Wednesday night, we'll definitely do the Wednesday night Pinky in the Brain with Deej. Friday night, we'll definitely do Jeopardy, and then we'll do games and whatever we can do between now and then on both Twitch and YouTube as time permits. So thank you guys. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are awesome. But thank you for hanging out with me. And Professor Brady Specs, I am definitely sure I'm not a Kurogan, and I don't mean to ignore your comments. And a Kurogan would never say that. See? And Aberdan says, wait, I have a query. Well, you better make it fast. You have about 30 seconds before I end the stream, and it better not have anything to do with boobs. You are as bad as Matthew and Bird. Well, no, except that I apologize, which, I know Bird doesn't. And I'm not as bad as them. And I'm also on drugs. That's my official excuse. Yeah, boobs. Great.